Welcome back to the Resolution Room, where we turn tension into transformation through clarity, connection, and consistency. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Alioto, and this is a space where we explore what's really underneath the moments that challenge us and how they can lead to something more honest, more human, and more whole. So let's get into it. All right, welcome to the Resolution Room and the Measure Up podcast.
Hey.
Featuring Dr. Nicole Alioto and
Dr. Nicole Alioto.
Here we are. And today we have a very special guest at the AASS conference here in Nashville. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Christian Jackson, and I'm honored to be here. It feels like a crossover episode that used to be on Disney Channel back in the day. Excited to be here. I'm the founder of EDAPT, EDAPT.com, and what I got started with was helping superintendents really bring AI into the conversation with their teams in a way that was comfortable for all the team members, whether they were techie or not, and at the same time making it practical, because we also often nowadays, teachers, staff, leadership alike, we're all burnt out on the new tech trends that are happening all the time. So how do you make sure you avoid that pitfall when the pitfalls Fortune 500 companies are making, while at the same time making sure you have student impact? So that's what we've been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah. So if you can start off by telling me, what are some common misconceptions that you've encountered around technology in schools, and particularly in smaller districts with limited IT support?
Gosh, that's a great question. So the first one's easy. And the first one is, you do not need experts in your district or in your community to get started. You just need to be a practitioner. And what that means is, in education, we have a commitment to being lifelong learners, right? And educating ourselves for their entire lives about what the world is and what our environment is, so we can prepare ourselves and our students. And when you draw that out into this AI conversation, I think we oftentimes fall into a trap of making things complicated. So I like to follow the keep it simple, stupid rule that my dad made sure I lived by growing up. And it comes down to this. You don't need experts. All you need is to make sure that you know what the major pain points are for your team that you're leading. And then from there, so long as you are trying out Google Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude by Anthropic, so long as you're at least trying the tools and trying to break them with the problems that your team are facing, you're a practitioner. And as a natural result of you logging on and just trying, you're going to see what the tools can do for you. So just number one, making sure the complexity of it's brought down to just brass tacks. So you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need experts. That's myth number one. Myth number two is we just need to have this as a PD next year. Because the pitfall that I'm seeing right now is I do not believe the vast majority of not just education, but the populace really understands how impactful this technology is already and is going to be on the workforce. And I think about my younger siblings and the world that they're graduating into and what the school system and also what even higher ed will be preparing them for. And I think the faster we get on top of this as an educational community, the better off our entire country and our students are that we're preparing are going to be.
Indeed. So that was a very in-depth, well-crafted response. And for those of you who aren't here at the conference watching this conversation happen, what's your background? Like, what brought you to this point? You talked about having younger siblings, and, I'm of the Gen X generation, so a lot of my colleagues are in their retirement mode and thinking about that part of their career. So, what brought you to this point where you're having these conversations? Tell us a little bit about why you got into this.
Yeah, I'll make a long story less long.
Okay.
But the headline of this will be, my life is full of serendipitous moments. And the number one blessing for me has been, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I am 25, and my youngest sibling is 12. Well, I actually just turned 13. So I'll be 26 this year. That's a 13-year age gap, right? And my 2 younger siblings are at the same grade schools that I went to, the same teachers that I had. And I've seen where the school system has shifted. I've seen where it's not shifted. And I've seen firsthand with my siblings, we all feel it, and our students feel it as well. There's a larger disconnect from when I was graduating back in 2018 with the students, from what we felt school was preparing us for in the world around us. And I see it now with my 13-year-old brother, my 16-year-old sister. Their age group is just going, I'm looking around the world how is this preparing me for the world that I'm going to be preparing for? So that's number one. That's the number one perspective that I'm bringing to the conversation. The second thing, that how I got here is I had a very serendipitous lunch with a superintendent. Her name is Dr. Amy Alzina, and she's actually speaking here. And she did some writing for AASA recently about how she's been leading the AI conversation. She's now the AI task force chair for the Association of California School Administrators. But we met about 3 years ago now through my mentor. And my mentor, telling you, it's all serendipitous moments. He was my professor senior year, asked me to come work with him for a year. He was the founder of Kinko's. So
Oh, wow.
he was very invested in early childhood education. As a result, had worked with Amy for some time before, invested a lot in nutritional programs, outdoor play-based learning. And when he brought Amy and I together, she said, "You seem like a very sociable nerd. Please come teach my teachers how to use these tools to help open up some capacity." And that's where this all got started. And the entry point was very, I would say, blessed, because I got to start by talking to superintendents and principals and trying to figure out how the system itself they were trying to fix, not with AI, but what the problems of practice were they're dealing with every single day. And then me and my nerdy self could go in and say, how could these new tools plug in to give them that additional support? And the last piece of it, my parents' background is important to this too, because they framed a lot of the way that I see the world, obviously. My mom moved out to Los Angeles from Marietta, Georgia, because she was going to become a speech pathologist, so she's getting her master's. So always wanted to work with kids, and she's the one where I get the empathetic listening from. And my dad, funny enough, is an actor. So he's the one, and he's the person, if you're at a 6 at your day, you're going to leave a conversation with him at least an 8 or 9. And if you're at a 10, you're going to leave it at 12. So I've been bringing both of those mentalities to this work, because oftentimes things get overcomplicated and conversations get bogged down in the why can't we do this. So if you can focus on how we solve real problems for real people and keep the conversation enlivening, then you have a good time.
This might not be an easy thing to answer, but there's naturally a lot of resistance when it comes to AI, especially in the education sector. So when you're trying to get this implemented into schools, working with superintendents and other leaders, how do you sort of coach them through the decision-making process and ensure them that AI is there to actually enhance the classroom and not disrupt from it?
Mm-hmm. So going back to that same statement, you'll realize after an hour of talking to me, I almost sound like a broken record, but it comes back to the keeping it simple, stupid piece, right? And the reason why it comes back to that is, let's just look at organizational change and adult change theory in general. You don't move a massive system by embedding something new and just hoping that it works, all right? We've seen that time and time again with practices and with different programs that we try to implement. So what do? Well, you start off with the actual problems that your constituents are facing. So the first thing I do before I go work with any team, it could be a school site, it could be a school district, it could be a state association. I ask them point blank, what are the biggest problems that you are trying to lead your district through or your team through right now? And I also send out a survey. And that survey goes out to every single team member. And what it asks are, what are your biggest pain points in your day-to-day or week-to-week work? And the second question is, if your team were to give you an assistant tomorrow, what would be the first tasks that you would offload? And those are the first two questions. I don't lead with AI. I lead with, please vent to me about where you are struggling. And then, like I said earlier, it's my job to then go, let me show you how simple it is to use these tools to help unlock those bottlenecks or pain points that you've been experiencing. And from there, you just go back to the brass tacks. I've now shown you that I'm listening to you. I'm here to solve real problems for you. And it's not that difficult to do. So now we brought the temperature down. Now we're on the same team. And from there, it just scaffolds out. Because if I can teach you how to, I have 3 frameworks that I go by. And strategic ties, rambling, and Play-Doh. And if I can teach you rambling and Play-Doh, we're going to be best friends. And you're going to be talking to me in about 3 months going, Christian, people look at me like I'm crazy talking to my computer, but I get so much done now. And now my whole team has shifted to thinking differently about not just AI, but how they look at their computer in general. So I know there's a lot of words, but it all boils back down to what you do at the end of the day is just say, what are the pain points that my teams are trying to solve for? And you start from there.
You talked a little bit about the shift that they experience, and kind of that's where I think about the impact and seeing how do we know when the transformation happens? What are those indicators of success? So when you're working with, identifying pain points and having those discussions and following up in a few months, what are you seeing as those early indicators that transformation is happening? And then what are you seeing as maybe those later indicators that really we're seeing systems change as a result of the work that you're doing?
I'm a very big sports guy, and as a result, I came up with the scoreboard concept, right? And on that scoreboard, there are 4 core scores that if I can't get up there on the board with you, then we've wasted time and money, right? And those 4 core scores are time saved. Time saved is the easiest one, because what do you hear all the time with AI? It's so much more efficient. You want to save so much time doing these small tasks. And that's the easy thing to track, right? Now, that being said, you can't just ask somebody, how much time did you save this week with AI? Because that's a bad way to ask that question. But I have some surveys, and the way that I go about asking the questions tries to create a research defensible survey response for these scores. So number 1 is time saved. Number 2 is dollars reinvested. Because in public education, every single hour is a salaried hour. And if I can, instead of us having that salaried hours being spent behind a computer, and instead of being spent in person and in community and with students, that's dollars reinvested. Right? It's not dollars saved. Very clear differentiation there. So time saved, dollars reinvested. And the last 2 are, now we've saved time for our teams. Are they happier? There's a very sinister trend with technology, which is the more it speeds life up for us, the more stressed we become. And without going into the weeds of that conversation right now, what that 3rd score tracks is work-life balance. So for those leaders, for those teachers, or for those staff members who are utilizing AI on a consistent basis, are they seeing gains in work-life balance improvement as self-reported by them? And the last piece is for that same cohort of teachers who are leading the charge and using the tools on a consistent basis. Assuming that they now know how to create differentiated materials for their students quickly, they now know how to make sure that they can save time so they can spend more one-on-one time with students. They have more personalized learning in the classroom now. With those things, are we seeing a student growth enablement as a result? So that 4th score is student growth enablement. And over the course of a year, I can't tell you causally that AI led to those scores increases. But can we draw a strong correlation? And I actually have I can share the link to this as well. I have a whole methodology page I wrote about how these surveys work and why they're research backable. Because we're asking very particular questions of the teachers who are leading this charge to make sure that we can track scores and growth year over year. And is there a correlation between those teachers who are using it consistently and the scores that they're seeing? So 4 core scores: time saved, dollars reinvested, work-life balance, student growth enablement.
Exciting. We're talking data, talking about language. And there's not a direct link, but there could be mediating and moderating factors, and I'm building the path diagram in my brain. So yeah, this is exciting stuff.
I promise you, if we had a long conversation about it, we'd be here for 2 hours about all the thought that went into how do you ask these questions the right way? Yeah. How do you remove those other factors from giving you some inflated scores?
Oh, my heart's beating fast. I love this stuff. But if you like this stuff too and you're listening to it on, let us know. Send us comments. Let us know if you want to hear more deep dive about any one of these topics. We could always follow up on them. But yeah, we can definitely go in the weeds on any one of these more technical topics. But we won't go there today. But
we'll keep it high level.
We'll keep it high level. We'll talk about big systems.
Yeah, but I love the way you connected all of that measurement back to school culture more broadly, right? Not just the direct link of AI and like improving test scores or something like that. It was like the big picture of culture. Mm-hmm. So from your perspective then, what leadership mindsets are most critical for school leaders and district leaders navigating today's challenges in education?
Proactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Proactivity.
Yep, we're all for the proactivity.
You, as a leader, and this is in education, sure, but it's in every single field right now.
Life.
If you are a leader, if you are a CEO, and every single superintendent is the CEO of their district, you should not be shelling this conversation off to another team member. This is something that you should be grappling with yourself because you need to help lead the direction, and you are setting the vision for your organization. It's not that difficult. I promise you. You give me one phone call, 30-minute conversation, I'll tell you exactly what to do, and you'll send me a text 15 minutes later that goes, oh my God, I didn't know I could do that. It's not that difficult. Now, the reason why I say proactivity and it's not that difficult being the first steps here is the leadership mindset is really, we need to come to terms with the fact that the world that we are preparing our students for is changing. And the only way that I feel that we can change and prepare our students accordingly is if we are grappling with what these tools feel like on a consistent basis. And as much as it does feel like that's another unfair thing to add on to the educational system's plate, given that we do not get the funding that we need to have to make sure that we are preparing not only our students, but our staff on a day-to-day basis. That's a whole other conversation. We 100% need more investment in the education sector right now. But it's something that we have to grapple with, because if you take that proactive step and you, your other department leads, your site leads are all engaged in this conversation, then you can easily start to build out a task force that's not only setting policy, but you're building modular guidelines and modular acceptable use policies as are informed by leaders and also informed by students. You're going to make sure that you're grappling with these conversations quickly and you don't end up in the issue that most districts are in right now, which is cat and mouse. Right? You have students submitting with AI and you have teachers using AI to check for AI. And that's not sustainable. We all know it's not sustainable. So proactivity, entering the conversation heads on, and it's not as high intensity of a conversation as most people anticipate. Because if you start off with those strategic ties, asking where people need support, and you ask them up front, what are your biggest risks and concerns with AI, and you address those head on in the first 1 or 2 meetings, you're going to have a great conversation. People are going to tell you how they really feel. And they're going to know that you're listening to them and making them feel brought in on this process as well.
So let's imagine we're sitting here in 10 years and we're having our podcast episode. We're having a little reunion. Yes. So where would you like to see the future of education and the impact of technology? Where would you like to see?
That's a great question.
What's your vision?
So for EDAPT, I've developed a form of a golden narrative for ourselves moving forward. And the golden narrative is really, we believe at our core that public education can become a self-improving system by 2030. And the way that we're tackling that is the same way that I'm tackling professional development. But we're building out software. And we're partnering with state departments of education, county offices of education, and also the district offices to make sure that all of those district improvement plans and school site improvement plans that we all submit year over year that are just PDFs that sit, sometimes don't even get posted. If we can, instead of having that old legacy process of completing them, do it all in one place. That's not AI forward, but experience and expertise forward, where we're asking you, hey, we've seen that you've had some year-over-year improvements for these subgroups. Here's the practices that you're utilizing. What was your implementation process for those? And also, was the implementation, when you said it was professional development, was that just because you have one really standout person who always leads your professional development? And now what we're doing is we're tracking what's working, how much you're spending on what's working, and are there any statistical district neighbors who can get some insight from what you're doing? So we're tracking what you're doing and how you're doing it. So in 10 years from now, my goal is to be able to look back and say we partnered with all 50 states, and we were able to build the system where we started to do all compliance and district improvement plans on one platform, so that any time a superintendent, maybe they're brand new to the role or they're 5 years in and they just can't crack the code with one subgroup, you can say, hey, here's what your statistical neighbor district is doing, and here's not just what they've been doing, but here's how they've been doing it.
Okay. And you brought up specifically 2030, which is, I don't think that's an accident, because you're acknowledged by the UN SDG goals in alignment with your work, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
That I can talk about that. So that work came all the way back to actually college. And one of the things I didn't share was even back to high school. My number one North Star in all of my work is I really want to make sure that we're bringing more career and educational opportunities to historically redlined communities, right? And that's been my North Star since high school. And tracking up into college, I took on some more leadership roles, particularly me and my roommate, now best friend, Des Hemmons. We took over the Black Male Leadership Organization on campus. And I promise this all comes back to answering your question, because in 2020, obviously COVID hit, but we also had the reckoning as a country. And my university had been silent about it for some time. And we're all remote, right? And me and Des, we said, well, let's go ahead and do some community engagement. And what we ended up doing was we brought together the entire school community. Didn't matter what background, whether it was racial, gender, whatever. We brought everybody together and we said, hey, listen, we want us right now to stand up as a community. Whatever your club promotes, whatever your program is, whether you're, tackling nutritional and food deserts, we want you to make sure that you're coming on. And we ended up raising, actually, in the course of 48 hours, $40,000 over like $5 and $20 donations just from this community engagement and activism. And all the money went to organizations that the unions and the groups, it could be frats, it was sororities, it was support groups, it was service organizations across the campus. They got to choose where the money would go. And we ended up raising that much over the course of 48 hours, got up to $50,000. And we actually started to have some conversations with the university about how do we improve retention rates for our students to make sure that they come in and they actually graduate. And then we also did the same thing, continuing forward from there, which is why the UN and the SDG goals have been rewarded. So, yeah, all the work's been a nice way. I'm 25 now, 7 years since high school, senior year of high school, of trying to identify what I really cared about, and things have been scaffolding nicely with that number one series of serendipitous moments like we started off with.
Well, I'd love for you to help a fundraiser for me to pay my rent next month. If you can hook that up, that'd be amazing.
Shoot, you and me both. You and me both.
Do you have any final questions?
No, I mean, this isn't great. I mean, I'm excited to see how far you've come, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. And, we're going to look forward to seeing your journey, and, maybe we can check in a little in the future and get some updates. But maybe before we leave, you could share about what your topic is that you're speaking about at the conference and let people know how they can find you.
Yes, so I'll blend both of those answers into one. If you are looking for any direction right now about it, just a playbook to follow on not just AI for AI's sake, right? Not just learning a tool, but actually having impactful organizational change and doing it in a way that emboldens student voices so they can help you help the rest of the district. EDAPT, again, EDAPT.com. We got a 5-letter domain. We got lucky. We have the playbooks, and we've been working through them with superintendents in real time every single day. We're in person. We're doing it virtually. And what I'm going to be speaking about tomorrow is what those playbooks are. What are the 4 core scores? What are the major frameworks? What are the updates that are happening on a literally week-to-week basis that you should be privy to? And, of course, I have the time. I have the time to go read and try these things out, and most of us in our roles, we don't have that. So it's just the nature of keeping everybody updated tomorrow, sharing what the 4 core scores and the frameworks are that have been proving effectiveness, and scaffolding out from there. And if you're a team member at a department of education at a state level at this point as well, we are having these conversations with regions at this point to make sure that EDAPT can become synonymous with school improvement, because we're here as a support for the school improvement departments. So that's about it. Hopefully we'll get to reconnect in about half a year.
That's amazing. It was so amazing to talk to you. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Likewise. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm honored I was able to be a part of this crossover episode. We got to do a Disney Channel crossover theme song at the start of it.
Yeah, we need that magic wand.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
As always, thank you for joining me in the Resolution Room. If this conversation moved you, challenged you, or gave you something to carry forward, consider supporting the show. You can explore our wearable wisdom collection in our Mind Shop, where each piece is designed to spark reflection and dialogue. You can also join our growing community for behind-the-scenes conversations, resources, and support of your own journey through tension and transformation. And if you just want to say thank you in a simple way, you can always buy me a coffee. Every gesture helps keep this space going. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, keep building in the quiet, because that's what will carry you forward.